I'm your host, Millie Johnson, and today we're diving into a defining moment in criminal justice reform, President Donald Trump's November 14, 2018 speech endorsing the First Step Act. This wasn't just another policy announcement. It was a rare instance of bipartisan collaboration during an era of intense political polarization. With the spotlight on criminal justice reform, President Trump's remarks in the historic Roosevelt Room at the White House rallied support for a groundbreaking piece of legislation. What made this speech so effective? Why did it resonate with such a broad audience? And what can it teach us about the potential for bipartisan solutions? Let's explore. The Roosevelt Room, steeped in history, was an ideal setting for this momentous occasion. This room has hosted countless critical policy discussions, symbolizing unity and progress. On that day, it was filled with a diverse audience, lawmakers from both sides of the aisle, law enforcement officials, faith leaders, and advocates for reform. The speech centered on the First Step Act, a bill designed to tackle systemic issues in the U.S. prison system. Its key goals are reducing recidivism, improving rehabilitation programs for inmates, and addressing inequities in federal sentencing laws. President Trump's remarks outlined specific provisions of the bill, including incentives for inmates to participate in educational programs, the adjustment of outdated sentencing guidelines, and policies to ensure inmates could remain closer to their families. But to truly understand the speech's impact, we must dissect how Trump used ethos, pathos, and logos to craft a compelling and unifying message. Ethos, or the appeal to credibility, played a foundational role in President Trump's speech. From the beginning, Trump underscored the bipartisan nature of the legislation by acknowledging key figures like Senator Chuck Grassley, Representative Bob Goodlatte, and Senator Tim Scott. These mentions weren't mere formalities. They were a deliberate effort to emphasize the collaborative spirit behind the bill. He also highlighted contributions from hard-working conservatives, Senator Mike Lee and Rand Paul, as well as reform-minded Democrats. By doing so, Trump sent a clear message. This wasn't just a Republican initiative. It was a collective effort to address a pressing national issue. Trump further bolstered the bill's credibility by citing successful state-level reforms in Texas, Georgia, and Mississippi, states known for their tough-on-crime reputations. As political analyst Patrick Gray notes, these states served as proof that rehabilitation-focused policies could reduce recidivism while maintaining public safety. Trump's use of pathos, emotional appeal, was equally powerful. A standout moment was his recounting of Alice Johnson's story. He said, "I'll never forget seeing Alice walk out of prison after serving 21 years for a nonviolent drug offense. She was reunited with her family, tears of joy streaming down her face. This is what the First Step Act is all about." Johnson's story wasn't just a feel-good anecdote. It was a stark reminder of the human cost of unfair sentencing laws. By personalizing the issue, Trump connected with his audience on a deeply emotional level, making the case for reform both urgent and relatable. He also shared success stories of companies hiring former inmates, showcasing how second chances could transform lives. As Bob Van Voorhis wrote in Bloomberg News, Trump framed these individuals not as burdens, but as contributors to a thriving economy. This strategy wasn't just about inspiring empathy, it was about instilling hope in the possibility of redemption and reintegration. Finally, Trump employed logos, or logical reasoning, to present the First Step Act as a practical solution to systemic problems. He tied the legislation to the nation's booming economy, emphasizing that record-low unemployment created an unprecedented opportunity for former inmates to reintegrate into society. He said, "With our booming economy, there's no better time for the former inmates to find meaningful work and turn their lives around." As Patrick Gray talks about in the Kansas Law Review 2022, Trump also detailed the bill's evidence-based reforms, such as incentivizing inmates to participate in educational and vocational training programs. Research shows that such programs significantly reduce recidivism rates, improving public safety while reducing taxpayer costs. Another key provision was the placement of inmates closer to their families. Studies consistently demonstrate that maintaining family ties is one of the strongest predictors of successful reintegration. By grounding these reforms in data, Trump strengthened the bill's appeal to lawmakers and the public alike. Bob Van Voorhis goes into detail about this in his piece in the Bloomberg News. But perhaps the most striking aspect of this speech was its bipartisan tone. Trump didn't just advocate for the First Step Act. He positioned it as an unifying achievement, a rare instance of cooperation in a deeply divided era. Trump stated, "This is a bipartisan effort. Together, we're taking a stand for fairness, justice, and opportunity. This is what America is all about." This rhetoric of unity wasn't just symbolic, it was strategic. By emphasizing shared values like redemption and fairness, Trump broadened the appeal of the First Step Act, rallying support across ideological lines. The First Step Act has since become a touchstone of criminal justice reform. Its long-term success will depend on implementation and continued bipartisan support. But the speech itself, rooted in ethos, pathos, and logos, marked a turning point in the national conversation. As Patrick Gray observed, the act demonstrated that bipartisan collaboration is not only possible but essential for addressing systemic challenges. By framing criminal justice reform as a moral, economic, and practical imperative, Trump's speech offered a blueprint for navigating divisive issues. It wasn't just a call to action, it was a call for unity. Thank you for joining us on Voices of Reform. Remember, reform is always around the corner, and together we can continue to make a difference and explore the moments and ideas that shape our society. Until next time, I'm Millie Johnson, signing off.